Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of I was about to say unique items, monster families. Today we're going to be going over gloams, burning souls, black souls, all sorts of various souls of evil that like to shoot lightning at your face. We're going to talk about all the various ways that you can potentially deal with them, why they're nasty, and why that even if you have 75% lightning resistance, they tend to still suck. Let's talk about them first. So, created from the vapors that rise from the dense jungle swamps, these mindless forms seek out energy contained in all living things. While not evil in nature, their feeding habits do make them a serious threat to adventurers. Willowisps use a lightning attack, so equipped with lightning resistance helps you out a lot. Willowisps are almost invisible until they attack, and you might be able to see traces of them as they move. They can be attacked while you cannot see them, so lay down some area of effect spells if possible. Willowisps also drain mana. And drain mana they do a lot. Now, there are tons of different versions of these, and they're pretty much all the same, except for some of them have poison immunity, and some of them have lightning immunity, as well as poison immunity. So it depends on which variation you come across. They generally tend to be pretty resistant to physical damage as well. Although not immune to physical damage, they're very resistant to physical damage. They don't really have a lot of HP. As you can see, they only roll between 1,892 and 5,059, which is baby numbers. If you compare that to, for instance, an Act 1 Fallen, which is a really good choice to compare them to, because Fallen are baby monsters as well. Fallen only have between 1,000 or 771 to 3,273, which means that your average Willowisp or Gloam kind of falls within the same amount of HP as a Fallen, a little bit higher. The problem lies in, and why they're so tanky, is that number one, they fly around and they try not to get hit. They turn invisible, they fly off the screen, they go in random locations, and they shoot lightning from those random locations, which is rather annoying. They also have 60% physical damage reduction in Hell and 80% for the Burning Souls. And the Gloam, Burning Soul, Black Soul guest monsters all have 90% physical damage reduction, which, while that doesn't necessarily make them immune to physical damage, they're only taking roughly 10% of any physical damage that you're dealing out, which makes them kind of annoying to deal with. The guest monsters also have 50% magic resistance as well, just to piss off all the Hammerdins and Bone Spear necromancers as well, which is really annoying. They are undead monsters, though, and they do get relatively well affected by Holy Bolt, which is really effective versus them. Their fire resistance is relatively non-existent. Their cold resistance is relatively non-existent. And, of course, they are lightning creatures, so they do have really good lightning res, usually being immune to lightning. And their poison resistance is 0 unless they happen to be the Burning Souls, in which case they have pretty much like capped out poison resistance. And all of the guest versions have poison resistance, I guess, just as a big FU to the melee characters. In fact, when you look at their statistics, they don't really have good fire res. They don't really have good cold res. They don't really have good magic res. The only thing they really have is lightning immunity and really high physical resistance. So what would be the point of giving them really high poison resistance? To F over all the melee characters, because an easy way to kill these guys would be to have some poison damage on like some charms or some equipment that you could potentially utilize so you could bypass physical resistance. It's actually a pretty good way to bypass physical immunities. And well, they're immune to poison in Act 5 because they really wanted to dick over all the melee characters. And they're not really even that hard to kill with only 2,000 HP, 2,000 to 5,000. So even just a little bit of poison damage can go a long way to finishing these guys off. However, another one of the problems is they run around all over the place, which can also lead to them regenerating. And since they're immune to poison, guess what? You can't stop their regeneration with that method. So you have to either use open wounds, which is going to be ineffective since they're running around everywhere, or prevent monster heal, which I strongly recommend, because their constant movement all around the battlefield makes it so that they regenerate, which makes them just really hard to pinpoint and kill. There are a couple methods that you can potentially use to pinpoint them, and I'll go over those in a little bit. However, they do appear in some of the more lucrative areas to farm. Now, granted, the Glomes specifically appear in Great Marsh, and nobody goes to the Great Marsh, but a lot of these will appear in areas like Worldstone Keep Level 2, Throne of Dark, or the Throne of The Throne of Darkness, the Throne of Destruction, the Throne of Destruction, which are two of the best areas to farm, to be perfectly honest, because Worldstone Keep Terrorized and Throne of Destruction Terrorized are really good for EXP. And these guys just are a plague on that. A lot of the times, like the lesser geared people who don't have high lightning resistance will just simply ditch a game because the Black Souls are in that game and just move on to the next one. Now, 75% lightning resistance is useful versus these guys, but it's not enough to prevent yourself from dying. And the reason is because the lightning damage that they do has a really large range, because lightning damage generally tends to be 1 to like whatever, like 1 to 10,000 or 1 to like 15,000 or whatever. And so when they hit you with the low damage number, it's not so bad. But when they hit you with the top end, the problem with the top end is so high that even if you say, for instance, they were doing, say, 10,000 on the top end and you subtract 75% from that, well, they're still doing like 2,500 damage. So the top end on the lightning attack is so high that it kind of bypasses resistance in some way, in which case you usually need much higher than 75% if you want to be completely immune to these guys. Either that, or you can add in a little bit of absorption and other techniques to try and prevent them from killing you. And the lightning attack itself is just absolutely devastating to groups because it pierces. Necromancers are particularly vulnerable to this because necromancers love to hide behind their army. And so a lot of the times when you're hiding behind your army and that lightning bolt goes straight through your army and hits you anyway, if you don't have the resistances to take that lightning bolt, it can be absolutely devastating. There is also an Easter egg when it comes to this particular monster, where basically they will spell out specific letters. This Easter egg was actually found like a couple years ago, and it essentially is the first initials of the original developers of Diablo 2. If you can get 4 Gloams alone, they will actually spell out various letters. As you can clearly see, we've got M, we've got V, we've got, what is that, a K, and so forth and so on. There's definitely quite a few different letters that equal quite a few different developers. I've got 4 of them alone right now, and I want to see if I can get them to do the letters real quickly. Let's see if we can get them to start spelling out letters for us. It's not always possible. This also gives you magic find, by the way, when they start spelling out letters. From what I remember, it's like was it 100% or something like that? I can't remember per letter. It's a MF boost per letter. I do remember that much. It's DEMVRPS. I'm pretty sure that P could either be Phil Shank or S could be Phil Shank. David Breverick would be D, obviously, and so forth and so on. They definitely have like specific meanings within the Diablo community. Now, I do have a. Oop, I didn't mean to attack that one. Don't do it. I do have a clip of them spelling out the numbers, just in case I can't get them to spell out our numbers. Spell out the letters. They don't spell out numbers; they spell out letters. Well, these guys don't want to do it. Let's see if I can get another pack to spell out the letters really quickly. It has to be 4, and usually you need 4 with no other monsters nearby, which is another part of the problem. Although sometimes they'll still do it even if there's other monsters nearby, which is unique. Is it 4 or 5? I can't remember if it's 5. You might be right. Let's see if we can find a bigger pack. Oh, there we go. There's 5 right there. Let's see if these guys will do it. And of course, they don't want to behave. That's okay. I have a clip of them doing the letters so we can look at it together. I was worried I might not be able to get them to do the Easter egg live for the video. Here we go. So this is the video of them doing the Easter egg during my Immortal video. And you can clearly see them doing the letters. So there you go. They just did the D. And then they follow up with the second letter, which I believe is the E. Yep, there's the E. And this is something that you can get them to do if you can get them alone. So you would need 4 of these guys alone, and they start doing the letters. There's the M. And this is an Easter egg that was left in the game from a long time ago. So if you have just Glomes on the screen, you will be able to force them to create these letters. And I think I still have the window open. But it's definitely something interesting that they programmed into the game. Whether or not you can get it to work or not is really just whether or not you can get the 4 Glomes by themselves and force them to start drawing the letters. The Magic Find bonus is apparently been confirmed through testing. So if you want to just have like massive amounts of Magic Find on your melee character that has no Magic Find, this is a very interesting way that you can potentially create that Magic Find. 1, 2, 3. Oh, do I have 5 here? Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because there's 5. I could try killing one. There you go. 1 is now dead. There should be just 4, I think, unless I accidentally killed 3. Another thing that I want to show you with these guys, because I'm having trouble getting them to perform on live stream, is Taunt. So Taunt actually works on these guys, and what it does is it actually forces them into melee range. And when you force them into melee range, they will actually melee you instead of firing lightning. As you can clearly see here, they are now just meleeing me directly. Taunt is actually extremely effective for melees to deal with Black Souls, because not only does it stop them from being able to use their lightning ability, it also prevents them from running away, and it stops them from being able to just simply like defend themselves in any way, shape, or form. You do have to obviously get the taunt on them so that they're attacking you directly, and it does have a duration, so it runs out after a certain period of time. But as you can clearly see, the Glomes are completely neutered by Taunt. Taunt is extremely effective at dealing with Glomes in general. So keep that in mind if you're a barbarian and you happen to have 1 point in Taunt, because look at how easy they are to kill when you taunt them. Other than that, there's really not a lot more to go over with these guys. They are really nasty damage-wise, but I don't necessarily think that they're the worst in terms of their overall, like, nastiness. I feel like the Undead Stygian Dolls and some of the other monsters in the game are worse, because I feel like these guys particularly can be dealt with. If you have enough lightning res, if you get yourself a little bit of lightning absorption, maybe a T-Gods or some other items, if you have a decent amount of HP and whatnot, you can usually get to the point where the Glomes do relatively nothing to you. They are easy enough to bypass, whereas things like the Undead Stygian Dolls, sometimes no matter what you do, they'll still kill you, which is a stark contrast from the Glomes, which can be countered with the correct equipment. Now, granted, you do need more than 75% resistance. You need, some type of absorption, or you need to increase your resistance maximum to a higher number. But overall, they're not impossible to deal with. Now, early on in the game, when you're like early in a ladder and you've got like negative 20% lightning res, yeah, good luck. They're absolutely going to rip you to shreds. And yeah, one big bonus that I'll let you in on, a secret is that lightning can actually be dodged for some reason. So if you are an Amazon and you do not have points in dodge, avoid, and evade, first off, I'm going to ask you why. You're stupid. And then second, I'm going to inform you that dodge, avoid, and evade, specifically the ones that work versus missiles, so avoid and evade, which work versus missiles, does in fact work versus lightning. Which means that the Amazon is very unique in that she has the ability to completely dodge lightning. The only other character in the game that can do that is the assassin that has the weapon block, and only while standing still she can block lightning with her claws. But the Amazon definitely has a leg up when it comes to Gloams, because with a decent amount of points into evade and avoid, you can effectively just dodge lightning bolts, which is kind of nutty if you really think about it, like being able to dodge lightning. You got to be really fast to dodge lightning. But apparently the Amazon, no problem. She just completely dodges lightning. And that's one of the crazy things about avoid and evade, is that they say that they dodge missile attacks, but there are a large number of things in the game spell-wise that count as missiles and function with these abilities, even though they're not technically missiles. Like, you wouldn't expect lightning to be something that you could dodge, but you totally can. And you can dodge all sorts of other things, like fire bolts and fireballs and freaking pretty much anything that's a missile. You can even dodge meteor, believe it or not. So if a sorceress were at PvP and cast meteor on your head, the actual impact of the meteor counts as a missile, and you can dodge it, which is kind of silly when you really think about it. Although you can't dodge the fire that subsequently comes from the meteor impact, which is a different story entirely. I guess you're not allowed to dodge fire, because fire isn't technically a missile. Although Inferno is comprised of missiles, and technically I think you can dodge Inferno because it's comprised of missiles. So the whole thing is very silly, but if you want to make yourself a tankier person when it comes to Gloams, even if you have negative resistances on an Amazon, if your avoid and your evade are high enough, you can actually just dodge the lightning bolts, which makes you a hell of a lot tankier than most people who can't dodge them. There's a bevy of items that you can potentially use to increase your resistances to lightning that also offer absorption and other effects. Some of them are dirt cheap, by the way. One of them I have on the North Star Smiter right here, one of my solo self-found characters. And if I can find it on a solo self-found character, you can definitely find it. It's called Blackthorn's Face, and Blackthorn's Face is a pretty decent little like low-level melee weapon or helmet. It comes with 20% lightning resistance and 20% light or 15% lightning resistance and 20% lightning absorption. So this is one of those items early on that you can pick up that will help you with the Gloams. You can also utilize T-Gods, you can utilize Wisp Projector, you can utilize the crafted lightning helmet, which is, I can't remember the name of it, I think it's called Ground, which costs Shale, Io, Ort, I think is what it is, which is also not terrible. Like, there's a lot of various ways that you can potentially deal with lightning resistance. There's also a shield, I think, that gives like a massive amount of lightning resistance if you don't have anything else. There's, smoke and all sorts of various other pieces of equipment. Honestly, when it comes to lightning res, it's not that hard to get huge amounts of it, and you're going to need to work on it anyway. If you're planning on doing Ubers, because you generally need a very large amount of lightning res to take on Uber Mephisto, who is going to strip a large amount of your lightning resistance from your character. So it doesn't actually hurt to build up some equipment that you could potentially use versus Gloams. Another really interesting way that you can potentially defend against Gloams if you are a Holy Shock Paladin or a Vengeance Paladin is Resist Lightning, which actually increases your maximum resistance by 1% per point, which you can very easily reach 95% if you are running Resist Lightning. Now, granted, if you're a Holy Shock Paladin, it's going to strip your overall defense, but in general, when it comes to like group play, if you are a Holy Shock Paladin running in like an 8-player group, switching to Resist Lightning while Gloams are out will literally make your entire group pretty much immune to Gloams. Not only will it give them a huge amount of lightning resistance, but it will also increase their maximum lightning resistance, making them relatively indestructible, which is pretty awesome. Now, Salvation increases the resistance of everybody around you as well, but it doesn't increase the maximum. And that's the really reason why Resist Lightning works so well. The only really downside to Resist Lightning is that those maximum percentage points do, I think, require you to actually spend hard points in the ability. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they do. And the radius on it is absolutely massive. It's like some 56 yards or something. It hits like everybody on the screen and like everybody like one whole screen away on all sides, which is kind of nutty. As for the Glomes themselves, it really just comes down to knowing how to deal with them. And I think that's kind of the most important thing. Is if you don't know how to deal with them, they're going to murder you. If you're not prepared for them, I mean, yeah, they're going to kill you. You can avoid them. You can blind them. Blinding them is actually extremely effective, by the way, because when they're blind, they can't see you. And if they can't see you, they can't shoot lightning at you. If you are on the Necromancer, the dim vision curse is extremely effective versus Glomes. You can also potentially use a couple pieces of equipment, which actually work fairly well too. One of them is the Gloam armor, or sorry, Gloom, not Gloam. The Gloom armor, which actually has a chance to proc dim vision when struck. It has a 15% chance anytime you are hit to just cast level 3 dim vision on the target. And it's kind of expensive, but if you're looking for a very easy way to like completely neuter Gloams, this actually works really well, and you can throw this on a Mercenary, and every time your Mercenary is struck by one of the lightning bolts, it will automatically cast the dim vision on the Gloams, which will prevent them from casting any further lightning bolts until they are no longer blind. Another interesting item is the unique item. It's called the Dark Sight Bassinet. The Dark Sight Bassinet is also something that you can potentially find, and it's not a bad helmet for Mercenary. The main effect of it is, however, is that it has 6% chance to cast level 6 3 dim vision when struck. If you take the Dark Sight Bassinet and also the Gloom Rune Word, and you put them both on the same Mercenary, every time your monster, your little Mercenary gets hit, he'll just be spamming dim vision all over the place. And the Gloams won't be able to do anything because they'll constantly be blind every single time they hit your Mercenary, which essentially also allows you to just run up and beat them up and kill them. It's an interesting mechanic, and if you've never tried out like a Gloam killer Mercenary, which is essentially the Gloom armor and the Dark Side Bassinet helmet, it can be really fun to like see the dim visions proccing all over the place wherever any monster strikes them. And the crazy thing is that for ranged monsters, as soon as dim vision hits them, they can no longer fire any ranged attacks until the dim vision ends, which means that it acts as an extremely effective defensive mechanic versus spellcasters and ranged monsters, although it doesn't work very well versus melee because melee are still in melee range and they can still hit your Mercenary even if they're blinded. The main downside of this, however, is you don't get any other curses. You don't get amplified damage or decrepify or lower resistance or anything because you'll have dim vision basically spammed everywhere. But it could be very fun for like a very tanky, like safe run through, like maybe hardcore, for instance. I think that's pretty much it with this particular monster. I think I've covered just about every avenue I can. Talked about the Easter egg, talked about how you can potentially kill them, how you deal with them, how you can build your resistance versus them, ways that you can taunt them, and ways that you can potentially lock them down so that they no longer cause any trouble for you. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals joining. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button if you're enjoying the content because this is my full-time job and I appreciate the support. And as always, keep watching.